Oh my God, that's a big one.
You're ready, Leslie.
Jesus Christ. Look.
Where did that feather come from?
Half a swan.
I just went to hit record there and you shouted, oh my God, that's a big one.
That's a big one, Leslie.
For anyone who's not aware, Toria is allergic to feathers.
And there's a big one. I just looked down and it was like...
Well, that's an intro if ever there was one.
Albatross.
Welcome back to another episode of Vegans and Vegetarians.
We are your hosts,
Lucy Taylor
and Victoria Barbie.
Let's not address the fact that it's been about 2 weeks since we last recorded the pod.
I was going to say we don't want to talk about it, but we do. That's the point of the podcast.
Yep. So we thought we would kind of approach today's episode with, I suppose, a bit of a casual life catch-up, because there has been so much happening in the last few weeks that it's been quite difficult to sit down and catch a breath.
So now we've decided, with our coffees, will you finished yours, that we will give you an update. So there's been quite a lot of, I suppose this podcast is more like births, deaths and marriages, because there's been a lot of new life enter the world since last we spoke.
Kiwi's just got in her carrier.
Kiwi, we're not going on holiday today.
But I suppose that kind of
circles nicely
into what we're just about to talk about. So I got very distracted. So for some context, those of you who have heard Kiwi know who Kiwi is. Kiwi is my cat. Kiwi fucking hates her carrier. She hates going in it. She hates being in the car. She cries the entire time. But she's been poking and sniffing around it the last few days because it sits in a little cubby hole in my living room. So I opened it yesterday just to see what would happen, and she keeps going in there. So I don't know if she's like trying to give herself exposure therapy or something.
She's like, I will face this here. She's currently now sat at the laptop. She's our sound tech this morning. Oh no, Kiwi!
I wanted to get a photo. Anyway,
it sounded like my mum there. Get a picture. Yes, so in the last few weeks, well, the cat carrier it makes sense in context. So a couple of weeks ago, I reached the ripe old age of 30. So you now have a geriatric girlfriend.
Give me a year and I'll catch up.
You have a mature older woman. So for that, so for those of you that are not aware, I'm just blowing my nose because that giant feather. For those of you that are not aware, I am an identical twin. So birthdays, they come in pairs. So for our big birthday, everyone jumped in the car and went away for a few days, which unfortunately for Kiwi resulted in her having a trip in said cat carrier, which she did not enjoy in comparison to our road trip where we had snacks and caffeine the full time. Kiwi had, she had her Licky Licks, but she didn't particularly enjoy them on that given day.
She won't eat her treats when she's in her carrier because she's too anxious and stressed.
You said she found one though.
She did.
She saved them for later. Meanwhile, while Kiwi was off enjoying her time with her grandparents, we spent a couple of days floating around in the hot tub, eating Percy pigs and enjoying the sunshine and the scenery up north. But while we were up there, new life entered the world.
Did indeed. So I am now officially an auntie for the first time in my life, which is very exciting. This was not on the, what do you call it?
Bingo card?
Yeah, this was not on the bingo. I was going to say that this was not a wild card. This was not on the bingo card for this year. But my brother and his partner just had a little baby. Little baby Colin. He was actually named after my dad, and he was born on my dad's birthday, which is really lovely, really sentimental. My dad passed away back in 2019, so little baby Colin Jr. entered the world on my dad's birthday on the 13th of May, and I went to visit him last weekend, or the weekend, no.
Oh, no, that's been a fast week.
What date is it today? It's the 30th. No, it was it's been nearly 2 weeks, I think. Nearly 2 weeks since I saw him. We will see him today as well, which we'll go into that in a bit. But honestly, he's adorable.
Other updates. So we've both been on our respective health journeys. I've been cleared by the physio to return to sports, which I was emotional about for all of 2 seconds. I think I sent you one emotional voice note, and then the minute I put my phone back in my pocket to walk to the car, I was like, right, I've cried about it, that's that.
You sent me that voice note, and at first I was like, is everything okay? It took me a second to register because I heard you crying, and I was like, is this a bad thing? And then I realised you were crying tears of joy.
It was weird because I had this, so I had to change physio just as a result of leaving the gym I used to work in for the one I do now. It is no longer a perk of the job. So I sourced my own, shout out to Caitlin, who is my new physio, cousin of Coach Dev. So I've kept it in the family. So between the pair of them, heads together, I went through more hop tests and all the rest of it. Balance is much better. I mean, absolutely. A lot of people ask me even now, they're like, oh, is it sore? And I'm like, I'd like to think it isn't more than a year later. It's full disclosure, I have no knee pain. It's creaky in the cold, but I think that's because of
It's those old bones.
Those old bones.
Those old bones, that's left.
Oh, the cold's got into my bones. Into my bones. The old creaky bones. No disrespect to anyone in their 30s, by the way. I'm sure you lead full lives. Yeah, so I technically have what they would describe as a provisional return to sports. So basically what that means is I cannot just launch myself out onto a pitch and play a full 8 minutes. I need to phase back in gently. But we had a bit of a laugh at training on Tuesday night. I was joking with one of the other lasses in the team. She was like, no one's going to pass you because they'll be too scared you break. I cannot stress, because I think I'm saying this more for my own benefit than anyone else's. Like, I am robust. Like, I'm not returning fragile. I'm healed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just as robust as any other set of knees on the pitch. Because the other thing that the coach was like, go with your strong leg first. And I put my left leg out, but I still have a very visible scar up it. And I think he thought I was joking, and he was like, be serious. And I'm like, I'm being serious. That is my stronger leg. It might look a wee bit smaller, and it's not at this stage anything to do with muscle atrophy. It is like, I think the origin and insertion points on my left leg are at a slightly different place to my right. So I've got a long quad rather than a short one.
Yep.
Which makes it look smaller still. But like, it is like, if you get me split squatting, this left leg can go and go and go. So it is my stronger leg. He was like, be serious. And I'm like, that is, it might look a bit battered and bruised, but it's strong. It's a strong leg. So with that, I then went through quite a lot of, like I messaged you yesterday, and having a bit of turmoil about, oh, I don't know what I want to do, it's just fixed. And then we had a chat about, like, where is that coming from? And it's, we spoke about it last night before we went to bed, a bit more of a self-limiting belief than anything else. Because physically I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
And we had a chat about it, and then I spoke to Coach Dev about it, and it was more of the person that I was when I ruptured my ACL, trained differently, had a different outlook, didn't rest, which is something that Dev is a message the other day as well, begging for another strength day, and she was like, you're not getting one. That you can do mobility. I'm like, I'm not swearing on the podcast, but thanks.
Why are you not swearing on the podcast?
Fuck's sake. There, I said it. Fuck's sake, I just want to lift something heavy.
I think we were talking about this last night as well, but I think a lot of people can probably relate to the sort of self-limiting beliefs around when you've gone through like a traumatic experience, like injuring yourself in sport or in a fitness type environment, or like, I mean, not even just specifically related to like sport, but say for example, like you are someone on like a weight loss or a fat loss journey, and you've got anxieties around maybe a traumatic experience that you've been through with that, where people have maybe judged you, or like in a social situation where you've experienced social anxiety. It can be so difficult to like tell yourself this story without actually like considering that there could be another option, or that those limiting beliefs are holding you back. And I think in those situations it is really important to ask yourself, like, is there a possibility that there's another option here? Like, is there a way that I can kind of test out this hypothesis, and if I am worried about re-injuring myself, can I like put myself in a situation where the risk is maybe slightly minimised and kind of build up my confidence from there?
which is I think was where, and it is part of protocol, because the other thing that Coach Dave pointed out is she's like, Victoria, you're not an international athlete. I'm like, I might as well be. to me, I am. Was this, like you're saying, like pressure I'd put on myself? But even aside from that, like when you look at fair enough, a lot of these international athletes, like that is their full-time job, as they do that. But they return to sports, and for the most part, are completely fine. Like they play again. If you look at like half the Arsenal women's side, they're all back. And I know Dev, the professional athletes, but like people, like it's not the injury it used to be anymore. Like 10 years ago, that would have been you. The surgery wasn't as advanced. The rehab wasn't what it is today. It would have been, they would have got you to a certain point and went, right, maybe don't do that again. Whereas now the resources are there for you to take your leg back and go, right, on you go. And you were saying it last night about the third way between two extremes.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about nutrition.
It's like things don't have to be either one way or another. Like, I think a lot of us fall into that all or nothing mindset, and I certainly speak a lot about it with my clients as well, where it's like there's only two options, but like a lot of the time, if we get creative, then there is another way to do things.
Which I think is something that my brain is still trying to peacify itself with. Like, cause when I'd messaged you yesterday, it was, I think I used the phrase, like when I went to training on Tuesday, fair enough, it was all laughs and jokes, but I kept looking about the place, and I'd said this to Luce as well. I was just looking about thinking, I wonder when my re-rupture will be. Like, that's where my brain was at. It wasn't a case of, oh, I hope I wouldn't hurt myself. It was this weird, almost cold peacify going, I wonder if it'll be raining. I wonder if it'll be a home game. And like my brain was just in it, like, oh, this is going to happen to you. And we spoke about it, and you're like, I think you should chat to Dev about it. So I spoke to Dev about it, and Dev was like, you don't train the way you used to train. And I was actually thinking about it, even if it were to ever happen again, like I've recovered from it.
Sometimes we just need someone to hold that mirror up to us and go, like, these are the things that you're not seeing that I am. I think, like, that's literally why I said to you, like, have you spoken to Dev about it? Like, she's your coach. Like, you're literally paying her to coach you. Like, let her coach you, because, like, you can come to me and tell me this is what I'm struggling with. Like, I'm having this fear, and I can tell you my perspective, but I'm not the one who's been working with you, like, on your strength and on your performance for the last however many months. So anything that I say, it might make you feel better, but it might not. Like, that's what your coach is for.
I think I needed probably last night in equal parts, like, kind of soothed and also not tough love, but like you're saying, like someone to hold the mirror up.
Yeah.
Because you were very much, right, I hear you, I hear what you're saying, but like you need to like see this for what it is. And then after a very short conversation with my coach, it's bizarre because the up and down, it was very much, I was ready to hit the panic button and be like, nope, that's me, rugby done. And I was going through in my head like, how do I tell everyone in the team, like, after all this impact? It was just such a split. Like, my head had just spiraled.
Yeah.
Because nothing had happened. Like, my legs are fine.
Yeah.
I'm fit and healthy. Like, where's the need? Because I remember I think I've maybe mentioned this in a podcast before, I remember when I'd hurt my knee initially, going to rugby training in Glasgow, and one of the guys had a black eye, and we were sat on the bench next to each other, and I remember saying to him, I wish I had the black eye. And he went, oh no, you don't. And I remember thinking, yes, I do, because that'll heal in a couple of weeks. And deep down, I knew it was going to take longer for mine to deal with whatever. At that point, I didn't realise I needed surgery.
Right, okay.
But I'm like, I would have taken a black eye.
Yeah.
Just give me a black eye.
Black eye is certainly a lot easier, like, not just physically, but mentally to recover from, I imagine.
I maybe get a couple of, ooh, what happened to you? And then it would go away. Whereas, but equally, like, we were saying, like, if it ever happened again, like, I can do it. And if I had to rehab my leg again, I mean, I got absolutely jacked on the upper half while I was waiting, so it's not the worst thing.
I think like that's another really important thing for people to hear. Like a lot of the time, because I like, for example, I've got clients at the moment who have been dealing with injuries or niggles, and they maybe don't quite have the capability to like get to a physio like right away, whether that's for like financial reasons or like time restraints. And so there are always other options. Like just because you maybe can't train a certain body part right now doesn't mean you can't train at all. Like speak to your coach, adapt your program. Like if I give the example of one of my clients just now, she's been having some issues with her shoulders and her back. So we've just taken out like all kind of like push movements for the moment, and we're focusing more on like building her upper back. And then next training block, if things have eased off, then we can slowly reintroduce things again. So it's like there's always options. Like just because you injure yourself or something happens doesn't mean that you're fucked. It's like you can still make progress in other ways. Because
I was thinking about that yesterday. Like I didn't want to become one of those people that was like, oh, I used to do that, but then that tricked me. There's always a way around about it. And it's like you were saying, like if you encounter like a speed bump, like just talk to your coach. Because they know, like, this is coming from a coach. So, like, I still had that experience as a coach of my own personal training. And me as a coach had to speak to my coach about it. So no one doesn't need it, if that makes sense.
Like, as coaches, we've got blind spots as well. We need other people to point those out for
We're just people.
We're literally just people.
Because you had a similar experience with your own training, because yesterday with your run.
What do you mean?
Like, not in a coaching perspective. My head went back to go forward. Not talking about, but like you're talking about like different ways to train.
Yep. So I suppose like with what we were just talking about there, that kind of does lead me into like where I'm currently at with my own training, because I think it can be really easy to become tied to this one identity as well, and it's certainly a journey that I've been on myself over the last like year or so now, like off the back of competing last year. And if anyone's been following me since around this time last year, then they've maybe spotted that I've gone through these cycles of like, this is what I'm doing now, no wait, I'm trying things that way. And I do like worry a lot like about how I'm kind of like perceived in that sense, because I know that like my own fitness goals can be like a little bit erratic, but I think for me like that's been coming from a really, really structured and like rigid way of living when I was competing. And that's something that like takes its toll on you quite a lot, like not just like physically but also psychologically, because it does kind of promote that all or nothing thinking. You do have to be 100% on it like when you go through something as rigid and as kind of specific as a bodybuilding prep, and it doesn't allow you to have that flexibility, and it can be really challenging to try and like unlearn that, especially if your goals shift. So I have been experiencing some health issues which have kind of been playing up like on and off since I'd say the beginning of this year, but honestly I feel like they started kicking in even before that. Like I feel as if post prep has been very much like a journey for me, where I'll go through phases of like having really low energy, like really low motivation, struggling to like drag myself through a training session, like needing to sleep for hours on end, like needing naps. My skin has not been the best for a while now. Like basically there are a lot of like signs of stress in my body, and I had a bit of a flare up recently. I actually had my bloods done because my previous coach, my bodybuilding coach, had suggested that it may be an underactive thyroid, because a lot of the symptoms were kind of pointing to that. I did a lot of research into it, and it did sound very likely. I've like struggled to like maintain the same weight as well. Like when I've increased calories, my weight has like piled on quite quickly compared to in the past, which all point to like underactive thyroid. However, I did get my thyroid checked privately. It's not something they normally do on the NHS, or they don't check your antibodies, which is what you would need to get checked to diagnose something like Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, which is like an overactive thyroid, which is something that runs, well, autoimmune conditions run in my family. So I guess like the probability of me having an autoimmune condition was quite high. However, my bloods came back all fine, which is good and bad. Good in a sense that I don't have a thyroid issue for now, touch wood. But bad in a sense of like I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it. However, my energy levels have been a lot better in this past week. I am starting to feel a lot more like myself, a lot more kind of level-headed. Brain fog has kind of dissipated, and I'm just trying to focus more on those like small actionable things that I can do on a daily basis, because I couldn't even get myself to the gym a couple of weeks ago. And if you are genuinely that exhausted that like you can't physically get through your day without like napping, or you're sleeping for like 9 hours still not feeling rested, please don't push yourself through anything, because you will fuck yourself up in the process. But also make sure that your nutrition is in a good spot, or at least you're prioritising it as much as you can. Because yeah, if you're feeling sluggish all the time but you are eating shit, then that's probably your issue. So that has been a bit of a tangent. I suppose that takes me to where I'm currently at just now. I think we spoke about this on the last episode, but I am under the guidance of a new coach who we basically set initial targets to reduce my training volume and frequency down to 4 sessions a week. Previously it was 5. Training style is a little bit different, so I'm used to kind of doing like 2 sets on every movement and doing maybe like 7 or 8 movements per session. For like my isolation movements, my accessories, like my leg extensions, my lat raises and stuff, I normally do like 3 sets. But yeah, we've now switched things about, so my training is looking slightly different. This week was just about getting back to the gym, and it's gone well. My nutrition's been a little bit all over the place. Like I have been eating well, however I've probably not quite been eating enough, because I was previously in a gaining phase, and now I'm kind of unsure of what I want to be doing, because I don't want to have a specific physique goal right now. I just want to work on health. So we were talking about this last night. Like I think that I kind of want to just aim for a bit of a maintenance phase right now and focus on just like improving my fitness. So I tagged on a little 20-minute like 3k run at the end of my session yesterday and really enjoyed it. And I'd love to do more of that. Yesterday was actually the first time since pre-bodybuilding prep that I had done cardio just for the sake of doing cardio. Any time that I've done or attempted to do cardio in the last 18 months has been with the aim of trying to lose body fat, even if I mentally wasn't in a place to lose weight, because I think that's a really important thing to get clear on as well. If your relationship with food is not in a good place, it might actually be worth spending some time at maintenance, trying to work on your diet and nutrition, trying to kind of undo any like food rules that you have, or any like toxic like diet culture kind of like thoughts that you have around foods, like labeling foods as good or bad, all these kind of things. Like if these are things you struggle with, then it might not be the best time for you to be in a deficit unless you are able to do it in a healthy and sustainable way. And certainly what I found myself falling into over the last like year when I've been trying to lose weight intentionally has been that toxic habits have crept in, and I've tried to just go balls to the wall, like restricting and doing excessive amounts of cardio and doing a million steps, and then I'll burn out and I'll feel like a failure, and then the cycle starts again. So I want to move away from that. Like that's something I really, really want to work on over the next like 6 months.
We had a chat about that last night, didn't we, about good and bad foods? Because since surgery as well, I feel like I've been in a similar boat where I worked it out myself, and then it was something I had a conversation with my coach. And then when we started seeing each other as well, one of the first comments she made is like, you don't eat very much. Which me, when I was bodybuilding, like I had a reputation as someone that was like a bottomless pit, and I would eat and eat and eat.
Oh, and you've definitely been eating a lot more in the last
yeah
in the last like month or so.
I've certainly ironed out that kink, but I used the term, I said something the other day and it was like good or bad in relation to food, and I wouldn't say you called me out for it, but you pointed it out. You were like, "There's no such thing as a good or bad food." And the same thing happened the other week when I did my check-in. So the week we were away, the week after that was a deload week. So it was just like hands off the wheel, like no heavy lifting, so to speak. And what I put in my like nutrition bit of my check-in, I was like, "Oh, I've snacked aplenty." And Dev came back, and it was like, "This is turning into a very special shout out to Dev." I came guest starring Dev, who's not here to defend herself. But I put in it, I was like, "But they weren't good snacks, Dev." And she was like, "Every snack's a good snack when you're eating for performance. Like, you just need fuel in the tank." But it's like you're saying, I had this very rigid, like, it has to be these foods.
Well, we were talking about this last night because I had a really good relationship with food when I first started training. Like, see, because I had no kind of concept of what like a well-balanced plate looked like prior to prioritising my fitness goals. So when I started my fitness journey properly back in 2021, not from a place of restriction, but from a place of like, I'm eating to fuel my performance. I was eating like 3 or 4 like good nutritious meals a day, high protein, and then a lot of that guilt around like having snacks, like having a sweet or like having some pizza or having a packet of crisps and stuff, like I no longer felt guilty for that because my diet wasn't mainly consistent of that anymore. And I found like for the first couple of years that I was training before I started working specifically with a bodybuilding coach, my way of eating worked for me and it was getting me results. Even if it's maybe not the best for digestion if you're having like 50 plus grams of protein in one serving, like like having a fucking plate full of sorry, excuse my language, like having an entire plate full of like protein, like that's not, your body's not going to digest that well. Like it's simply not. Like
good luck the next time you go to the toilet if you're trying to eat that.
Like those are things that, you know, if I'd broken that down a little bit more, would have been a little bit better for my overall digestion and stuff. But for the most part, I kind of ate things. Another thing about like being vegan as well, which so it doesn't make things tricky, it just involves a little bit more awareness. So if you are vegan and you are trying to hit a certain amount of protein to fuel your training and performance, it's worth noting that like there are very few properly like lean protein sources that are plant-based. So vegan protein sources will often have like substantially more carbs and fats in them than, for example, like a chicken breast will or like a steak fillet or whatever, which is just pure protein. So that makes it a little bit more difficult. Not difficult, but just takes a little bit more like strategizing when you are trying to build your plate. Now, when I started working with my bodybuilding coach back in 2023, he gave me a meal plan, and the way that was kind of built was there was a lot of focus on like, I say clean foods. So kind of keeping those vegan protein sources as lean as possible. That meant that like maybe 3 of my meals out of the day were like based on vegan protein powder, because it meant that my carbs and my fats were coming from actual like healthy like carbs and fats, rather than being like trace fats and carbs from the protein sources I was eating. This might be really confusing to someone who doesn't train frequently or doesn't have a good grasp on diet and nutrition. So if you want a bit more understanding of that, like please reach out to either of us and we'll be happy to explain. But prior to that, that's not how I was managing my nutrition. Like a lot of my protein sources were things like tofu, tempeh, mock meats that were higher in carbs and fats, and I just made it work. But I then ended up with these weird like food rules in my head, like post prep, where it was like, well, I need to eat as clean as possible. So I would then feel guilty for having things like tofu or tempeh or whatever else that had more fats and carbs in it. But like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like if you're still within whatever calorie target you're aiming for, and as long as you're still hitting your protein, that split isn't actually like it doesn't matter how that's split throughout the day. Like it's just better if you're a bodybuilder to have smaller meals throughout the day because they will digest more easily. It will help to manage your energy balance, and it'll help you with your training performance if you're aiming for like a pre and post workout meal.
Yeah.
But it's not the be all end all. Like you can absolutely still see results without following that super rigid structure.
Like the ratio doesn't need to be bang on.
But because that got me to where I needed to be for that period of time, I've then convinced myself in my head that's the only way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
When that's simply not the case. Like there are a million different ways to do things,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of the time you've just got to kind of experiment a bit and find what works for you.
Or what we've been talking about quite a lot the last couple of weeks, the fuck around and find out method.
Mm-hmm.
But I had this conversation yesterday. I had an inquiry call with a lady who is menopausal, and we were having a chat about nutrition, and she had worked out her BMR. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the terminology, basal metabolic rate, which is basically, for want of a better word, the calories and fuel she'll need in a day, depending on what she's doing. And she'd read somewhere it was like 20% was the number she'd pulled out, and she went, is that right? Are these my exact calories in accordance with whatever? And I went, well, technically yes and technically no, because everybody is different.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there aren't two bodies in the world that have the exact like nutritional requirements as the other. Like you could be the exact same height and weight as someone else, but like your body composition could be different, the amount you move in a day could be different, the like requirements on your bodies could be different. Like one of you could have a sedentary job and the other could have a physical job, or one of you might have a health condition the other doesn't have. You can't look at someone else's energy requirements and assume they're your own, and vice versa. But it also might fluctuate on any given day. So for example, like the world of sports, it's true, like bodybuilding is a sport as well. On days you are training or need more of yourself, like we were talking about this morning, about like days where you've trained and you're absolutely ravenous, and then days where you're not moving as much, not so much bothered. You need fuel to move, like to really water it down. It's like putting petrol in a car. Like if you're not driving it, you don't really need as much petrol, but if you're driving it all the time, you're going to need way more fuel in the tank, for want of a better word.
Well, that's the thing as well. I suppose that kind of ties into, I had the question from one of my clients the other day on their check-in form. They were asking me, they were like, I have gone over my protein a few days recently, like, is that going to make a difference? And I'm like, well, not necessarily. Like, it's not really going to have an impact on anything. The way that I generally run things with my clients as well is if someone comes to me and they've never really like tracked their protein or anything before, I'll typically like start them on like, I say like a smaller amount of protein, in terms of if you've never tracked your protein, if you're still getting to grips with that, I'm not going to go, right, okay, you need to eat 150 grams of protein a day. Because then it's like all of a sudden they're going from 0 to 100.
Their stomachs.
So if you've never tracked your protein before, and if you've not been consistently like training to build muscle for a long period of time, then I'll typically probably start you off anywhere between like 100 to 120 grams of protein.
Mm-hmm.
If you are someone who's maybe been in the gym for a bit, if you have like really strict like performance goals, like if you've already got a bit of a background in like building muscle and stuff, then we are probably going to be a bit more realistic in terms of this is the amount you need to like recover and like maintain the muscle that you do have and grow. But typically I wouldn't start looking to adjust people's protein until recovery starts to break down, performance starts to break down. Maybe you're at a deficit and you're starting to notice that you're really hungry, right? Okay, well, let's increase protein a little bit and reduce carbs a bit. Because otherwise it's like, it's quite a lot to kind of try and change at any given time. But nothing's going to happen if you eat a little bit extra protein.
Like generally your body can only absorb so much in a day anyway, so for want of a better word, if you eat too much, it's just going to come right back out the other side. So like your body will deal with it, don't panic. I mean, you'll have a fun time in the toilet trying to deal with it.
But if you do eat too much protein, then like your body's literally going to just use that as fuel instead.
Yeah, your body will just process it differently. Because that means you probably are ingesting slightly less carbohydrates than what your body does when it runs out of carbs, is it uses the protein anyway. So panic not.
I will say, just talking about the whole like diet and nutrition thing though, so I've been I say I've been eating better. I've been eating more nutritionally dense foods recently because for a moment when I thought I had Hashimoto's, I was like, let's cut out soy and gluten and see if I notice a difference to my energy levels and stuff. Now, that, as a vegan, that made my protein sources very limited because soy is where I get the majority of my protein from. So I was drinking fuel shakes in the morning, sometimes in the evening as well. I have been enjoying that though. I do want to keep that in because it's like 400 calories, 40 grams of protein. It tastes all right. Some of my clients think it's rank, but
Each to their own.
I feel like it's tolerable, and I know that it is a good nutritionally dense meal, so I'm like, well, that's going to benefit me. So I was drinking those. I was having more lentils and beans. So my fibre was through the roof. So I have been a very, very stinky guy for the past week.
I had to laugh when I went to get kiwi or biscuits last night. I opened the cabinet and it was just met with a wall of chickpeas. It was like tin after tin after tin.
Yep, I've had my chickpeas, my beans, my lentils. I've been enjoying it though. What I have been doing though, like, I'm still keeping them in just because they are easier foods to eat because my jaw has also been locked for the last couple of weeks. And it's loosening up now, but that has been quite challenging. And that's also partly an indicator of stress. But people have been asking me, like, have you got any other stress symptoms apart from like the fatigue and stuff? But like, I don't feel like I've been feeling stressed. Like, see, prior to starting antidepressants back in February, when I was stressed, I would get very anxious. Like, it would keep me awake at night. I'd be up first thing in the morning, like full of adrenaline. I'm not really like experiencing that, but I'm just wondering if like my antidepressants have like not emotionally blunted me because I'm still very much feeling emotions, but I'm wondering if they've like created that distance between the physiological stress and my thoughts to where it's like that stress is now just coming out in other ways. I don't know.
Well, if it's just rerouting it.
I know.
So we're plugging these exits.
Here, by the way, so did I tell you I used to have to use this, but I used to suffer from hyperhidrosis.
What is that?
And it still kind of flares up now and again, so it's like excessive sweating.
I don't think we've ever spoke about.
So I used to get really bad like rashes under my armpits, like sweat rashes, and I now wonder if that was maybe linked, well, probably like lifestyle habits back then as well, because I was drinking a lot, probably wasn't hydrating enough. I tried like multiple different medications, like antidepressants and stuff when I was in uni, so I think that they can like cause things like that as well. But I used to get like really bad sweat rashes under my armpits. So there's this like, you get it from the pharmacy or like the GP. It's this little roll on. It's like a deodorant, but like you put one layer of it on at night and then you wash it off first thing in the morning. But if you put too much on, then it stings the fuck out of your armpits.
Oh,
because basically what it does is it like blocks the pores. But that sweat still has to come out of somewhere.
Where does it go, Lucy?
Well, it comes out of a lot of people's arse cracks. I never really personally, I'm so exposing myself here.
I never remember if we'd been videoing it, that would have been the close-up zoom on my shocked face.
We missed the trick this morning. Well, I didn't realise this is where this podcast episode would go today. We've gone on quite a tangent. We have gone on quite a tangent. But yeah, basically like the sweat just comes out of other places instead. But I always feel like that's what happens with antidepressants, maybe. It's like, oh, well, you're not experiencing the stress in this way, so we're just gonna... Do you know your stress is now gonna come out in the form of you, like, clenching your jaw in your sleep. And then, like, the amount of times I was waking up, like, yeah, at least it's not that. The amount of times I was waking up in the middle of the night before I got myself that mouth guard the other week, where I'd literally be, like, chomping down on my tongue. So my tongue was covered in like ulcers and the outside of my tongue was all scalloped. In fact, I've just realised that ulcer's finally gone. I literally had an ulcer on the side of my tongue for about 2 months there, which came on when I first started taking sertraline because I'd just be sitting there, like literally not even sleeping, sitting on my sofa. So I couldn't move for about a month.
Yeah, You were on the struggle bus initially.
I don't know how I still held it together, like, genuinely.
Although
I don't know how I still
was like, I'll fuse your jaw shut and we'll heal the ulcer.
I don't know how I still showed up for my clients that month. I felt like the biggest fraud because I was like, I've not been to the gym. I'm not eating. Period. Like it wasn't even like, oh, I'm not eating. Like I wasn't eating for that month. I lost like 5 kilos. I then regained it just as quickly when I got back to training and eating. This is what I'm like. My body's just confused at this point because whether intentionally or not, like I've gone through several periods in the last year where I've just like not been able to eat from like stress.
Like I find I've become way more. Not that I was. This makes me sound like such a knob. Not that I wasn't empathetic or empathetic before, but I view things far differently now. I've had a severe injury than I did before.
Mm-hmm.
Because for like I felt like I'd not toppled right down because I was still a fit and healthy individual. I just had to relearn to use my leg, but I had to do things in terms of the gym and rest as well that me of yesteryear did not enjoy doing. And I had to be patient and I had to listen to my body. And I feel like that happens to us all to some degree at some point in our lives. And as a coach, we need to be prepared for, like, on paper, your client might look like they're doing great, but if they're coming to you going, I'm really struggling with this. Before I would have been scratching my head going, don't know why. I mean, I can do it. And then I was put in a position where all of a sudden I couldn't do it. And I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. This makes so much sense.
Yeah, I feel as if like I don't know if I've spoken about this on on a previous episode, but I put a poll up recently, right, and it was asking people, do they think that laziness actually exists? Now, I think there are obviously certain circumstances where people are like, I can't be bothered doing that thing, so I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it is such a nuanced thing. Like, I believe that there is always some sort of like root underlying cause when it comes to what we know as laziness.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's someone's like going through extreme stress, burnout, like they're going through difficult life circumstances, they have fears like phobias, anxieties holding them back.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be some sort of underlying reason for what presents as laziness.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people don't get themselves into those situations intentionally, and I don't think it's right to kind of put the blame on someone for kind of ending up in those circles. Like, all behaviour makes sense in context. Anyway, I was talking about this on my stories recently, and someone reached out to me and they basically told me that they thought I was at risk of projecting or maybe even like validating people who currently aren't doing anything to work towards their fitness goals, or like giving them this pass and going like, oh, it's okay, like Lucy says that laziness doesn't exist, so I'm just going to continue not taking action towards my goals. They basically said that like with the assumption that I myself seem like I've got really good keyword seem. Lucy seems like they've got really good habits in place. Therefore, for them to be saying like laziness isn't like a real thing, that might be giving other people who don't have as much structure, don't have as much routine, don't have as good habits in place, might go, oh well, Lucy says it's okay, so I'm just going to keep doing things that way. Number one, anything that I post online, like that, whoever consumes that content, it's their responsibility to critique that, to take what they will from that. Like, that's not for me to take responsibility on.
Yeah.
But secondly, it is so easy to like sit back and watch someone's accomplishments, the lifestyle that they've kind of had or like displayed online, and go, oh, that person's got their shit together.
Yep.
When actually a lot of the time, like, that's not the case. And like, I'm always going to be upfront about the things I'm struggling with, like the challenges I'm going through and how I'm dealing with them. But like, I don't sit there and like validate people who aren't making moves towards their goals, especially not in my coaching. Like, for me as a coach, it's about kind of helping people figure out what's keeping them stuck and then working with them to find a solution.
It's like, remember you kind of debunked it at the time. Like, laziness isn't so much in and of itself. Like, there's always something just below the surface.
Yep.
We all give ourselves, not a reason, but like we go, I'm not doing this today. Initially, you might think, oh, if you're lying on the couch, you're like, I'm not doing this today because I just can't be bothered. But if you like let your mind kind of settle, there's always a reason. It's like, I can't be bothered because I'm scared I fail, or I don't want to go to the gym alone, or it's probably going to be busy and I'm anxious, or I'm not going to eat healthy today because I'm not sure how, or like I'm scared I'm not doing it right, so I'm just not going to. Like, there's always, or I'm scared people will laugh. Like, there's always something. There's always a something. But it's all right if you don't necessarily know what that is immediately.
It's like I've had a lot of conversations with clients recently. Like, it comes up all the time. So many of the people that I work with have this like deep rooted shame within themselves, and whenever things don't go well, or whenever they have what they deem to be like an unproductive week or a difficult week, they always, like, their shame always comes to the surface there, and they're like, I don't know what's wrong with me, like, this is all my fault, like, I'm a bad client, like, there's so much shame in it, and like a lot of the time they'll admit to that as well. And these are certainly things that I notice in myself too. And again, like, I think coming from a bodybuilding background where that's very much the way people get results, is they shame themselves into those results. And that's something that I know, like, serves you in an extreme sort of environment like a bodybuilding contest prep. But in normal life, like, when does that ever truly benefit you? Because shaming yourself into change,
it just breeds more shame. Because if you ever deviate,
if you can't if you can't uphold that standard, if you can't keep it up, you just continue to shame yourself even more.
Or you reinforce the negative thoughts you had about yourself. Because even when you get there, it's not a triumphant moment. Like, it's not how you'll think it'll feel. You'll get to the top of the proverbial mountain, and instead of going, you know what, I did that, I'm really proud of myself, and like I learnt about myself along the way, what will happen is when you get to that end point, it'll almost be like an apology to yourself, going, oh, I'm sorry there, I've corrected it. And then you'll have manifested this I am broken mentality about yourself. Like, I was reading something the other day, and it was about this notion of people feeling they need to fix themselves. Like, regardless of what may or may not have happened or is going on in each of our respective lives, like, at no point are you broken. Even when I was sat on the couch with my ACL hanging off, yes, physically a part of me had broke, but I was not a broken person. Like, I was still me, still capable of most of the things I was always able to do. And fair enough, leg-wise, adaptations needed to happen, and there's absolutely no way in hell you'd be able to play a contact sport. But like, I was still me. I still had like the thoughts I always had. I still had the same sense of humour, the same memories. I liked eating the same foods. I liked listening to the same music. I like spending time with the people I care about. I didn't need to be fixed in that sense. Even people that, like, I went through a period in my life where, so obviously we've touched on like antidepressants just after lockdown. I went on them, and I remember the weekend I started my antidepressants. So it wasn't long after lockdown eased. So it was the first holiday I'd went on where, like, I spent time with my sister and her side of the family, as well as obviously my mum was there. And it was the weekend my sister got engaged, and you were talking about excessive sweat. So when I went on these tablets, I'm not a very sweaty person. It takes a lot for me to, like,
I know. Me and you in the sauna.
We were in there and you were like soaking, and I'm like, I'm not even glistening. I was like, we need to stay in here till I glisten a bit. You sweat on behalf of us both. I don't sweat. I'm like sandpaper. But for some reason, when I started these tablets, I could not stop sweating. Like, it was running out of me. I remember my t-shirt used to stick to my back, and I was like, what is happening to me? It took me a wee bit to twig that it's because I'd started this medication, but it settled down, and now you don't even get a bead of sweat at me. But I remember going in to my room at one point, and my sister had just got engaged, and everyone was really happy. Like, jovial moods. But I remember going into my room, all sweaty, feeling minging, and looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, fair enough, it was like just after lockdown, and I think a lot of people had a moment where they reassessed their life in lockdown, going, well, now I'm trapped in the living room, what do I do? And I looked at myself in the mirror, and I remember thinking to myself, then I am a broken person. And I think it's easy, especially being a twin, to compare yourself, which is a bit silly because you're still two different people.
Mm-hmm.
Like my sister and I have two very different careers, very different interests, very different builds. Like, you name, for a start, she's straight, I'm gay, like, what? I'm better looking, she's not. Am I? But I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm the same age as my sister, albeit 26 minutes, her junior. I made my mum suffer. But in that moment was like, my sister has come out of lockdown a success, and I've come out of lockdown a sweaty, lost soul on antidepressants. And I remember feeling really sad. And looking back on it now, I wish I'd been there to speak to, I was going to say younger me in my 20s. 30-year-old me, O'Brien Gin, listen hen. I wish I'd known at that point that I wasn't broken at all.
That just triggered a memory for me there.
Please do tell.
Well, you obviously know that I broke my foot at the beginning of it was like 2 months before lockdown.
You went in a mini lockdown before it happened.
I was rehearsing for lockdown, so
You got the free trial.
I literally broke my foot skateboarding, and it was like, I think it was like the day before Valentine's Day.
Mm.
And I was seeing this guy at the time who had like introduced me to his family, like on maybe like the second or third time hanging out, like invited me down to his family home. We weren't like official or anything, we were just like dating.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that like weekend down there, he just completely ghosted me. Or like not completely ghosted me, but like wasn't talking to, like was barely talking to me, barely texting me back. And then he was meant to have like a DJ gig like the night, like on Valentine's Day, which was like the day that the day after I was at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just went like completely quiet on me, and then like broke up with me like a week later, and I was like, my life's over. And then we went into lockdown, and I was like, what the fuck's going on?
I thought the universe was like, global crisis.
I know, it was like, you're gonna get your foot broken, you're gonna get your heart I'm gonna say my heart broken. Like, that sounds a bit dramatic, and I think that it would be really good to do like an episode on Compet, because I feel as if I have like so much to unpack there.
Yeah.
But it is just funny like looking back on that, because I'm like, I remember thinking like, this is the end of the fucking world.
Mm-hmm.
And now life is just so different. I learnt a lot of lessons from lockdown. But yeah, that's wild.
I don't understand people, like, occasionally my mum will have a bad day and she'll be like, oh, I wish we were in lockdown again. I'm like, don't you ever bring that scourge on us. Please no.
I don't know what to do with myself.
I got really bad cabin fever. I think because I spent most of my days in the living room. I worked there, I exercised there, I ate there.
But to be fair though, if it weren't for lockdown, then I wouldn't have this flat. And I remember like one of the goals that I set for myself like during lockdown was like, I want to be living in my own like one bed flat.
Mm-hmm.
I say my own, like obviously it's a fucking housing association flat, so I don't own it, but
you're in it, and
I'm in it, and like I never thought I'd be in a position where I'd be able to like afford rent on a one bed flat. Like, shout out housing association prices, but also like the rents, it's getting steep now, but it's still good compared to like how much I'd be paying for rent in like a West End flat, like a couple of streets over. So
suckers across the road.
I know, you need parking as well.
I mean,
I don't have to pay for a parking permit, so I don't have to parallel park on the street, so we're good.
We just parallel park in the side street. Yeah, but some of those other streets, I took a wrong turn. Where was I? It was that day. Remember it was down near Queen's Park, and I took a wrong turn and we had to go down that road, and it was literally like, the cars were like that.
The streets in the south side,
Oh,
like,
good God.
I want to move to the south side and be a south side gay, but the only issue I have is all the street parking.
Mopeds. That's the answer. Mopeds. Because
Or
you can park anywhere.
Or you can just teach me to parallel.
I'll teach you. I'll teach you at Parallel Park. I feel like that is my like what's the word I'm looking for?
You're 40.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Like,
special.
If
you're
I was
special
like,
talent.
if I had like gay qualifications, I'm like Parallel Parking. Like I'm one of those lesbians.
You know your way around the hood of a car.
Yeah, I know my way around the car. I'm a mechanical lesbian. Like I tore apart an Xbox. I can parallel park.
You're also a computer science lesbian, according to The Sims.
Yeah, according to The Sims, I had a midlife crisis, and I'm
Now you're a bean blender.
now I'm a bean blender. I was always a bean blender. Mum, if you're listening, this is your cue to tap out.
Anyway, we made ourselves on The Sims.
Mhm.
I've been in a bit of a Sims hole for the past week, although I played it for like 12 hours and now I'm bored of it. But we got married, we had a baby, we adopted a kid as well.
Matthias.
Toria's at uni studying computer science, but is also working as a bean blender
in the local cafe.
And my sim is a university professor, so I guess that sociology degree did come in handy after all.
You're now teaching others. And we've moved house a couple of times.
We have. We're in our third house now. So,
because our first flat had parasites.
If anything goes to shit in real life, then at least we're doing pretty cushy on The Sims.
Yeah. We've got it made in The Sims.
And on that note, I'm fucking hungry and I want my breakfast.
Yeah.
So we're just starting to chat shite now. So let's.
Well, there's nothing shite about The Sims. I was trying to do like a sign off in the Sims on that note. Dag.
Susu.
Susu.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you have got any questions, any suggestions, topics you would like us to discuss in future episodes, then please drop us a message on Instagram. I am tailormadetraining.pt.
And I am VB the PT.
Peace out.
Dag.
Susu.